Russia says it's put into service the first batch of new strategic missiles that it claims can penetrate any existing or future missile shields. The avant-garde is what's known as a hypersonic glide vehicle, which can steer an unpredictable course, making detection much harder. It's the latest move in what appears to be an escalating missile race with the United States. Bill Hayton reports.
Somewhere on the southern fringes of Russia, close to the border with Kazakhstan, a new era in missile technology begins. This was a test launch last year of Russia's new avant-garde weapon. It's fired into space atop an intercontinental ballistic missile. It can then glide over the atmosphere, dodging defences until it reaches its target.
We have a unique situation in our recent history. Other countries are having to catch up with Russia. No other country has hypersonic weapons, not to mention hypersonic weapons of intercontinental range.
In truth, there are many such weapons. All intercontinental ballistic missiles travel many times faster than the speed of sound. But the Russian military hopes its new system can give it an edge in a new arms race. A race that's putting pressure on the international arms control system built up over the past 40 years. In October, China displayed its own new hypersonic glide vehicle at a military parade in Beijing. The US wants Chinese missiles included in a new intermediate range treaty, but it's not clear whether any government is willing to agree to new controls at the moment. Bill Hayton, BBC News.
Professor Melanie Marlowe is from the US Center for Strategic and International Studies. I asked her whether Russia's President Vladimir Putin was correct when he said that the advance put Russia in a class of its own.
In a sense, he is. The United States and other countries have been very far behind in this technology. We've been focused on counterterrorism the last 2 decades. And China, as your introduction noted, as well as Russia, have been developing this kind of technology. So it is something that the United States has started to make some advances on. We are currently investing in hypersonic strike, but we are not as far along as the Russians apparently are.
If the US feels compelled to respond, are we now on the cusp of 2020, on the cusp of a new arms race?
I don't know that it's an arms race. If it is an arms race, as I've mentioned before, it's been a one-sided one, as the United States has not been focusing on this. There are problems with this. We need to keep it in perspective, whether it's Mach 27, as Putin said today, or Mach 20, that can do a lot of damage, and we need to be ready for that. But the concern is that these weapons are highly maneuverable, that they are very difficult to track and target. And if one of these came towards us, what would the response be? There would be very little time for decision making. And would the United States respond in a nuclear or a conventional way?
How does this innovation change the balance of power among nuclear-capable states, in particular with China in the same region as Russia?
Yeah, this is a difficult problem to solve. Of course, the United States and Britain, we have allies in that region, and we want to be sure that they're protected. And in my view, the threat really is regional, that we need to be concerned about what's going on over there. I'm not as concerned about a strike on the American homeland. But we do need to make sure that our capabilities are strong. Is the balance of power altered? It is, in the sense that China or Russia could easily attack one of our forward bases or an aircraft carrier, do a significant amount of damage, and it would take a while for the United States to be able to respond. So, as I mentioned before, it's not just the offensive strike that we need to be concerned about, but the defense as well.
Will there be pressure in the United States for the American government to respond? We saw that in the earlier space race in the 60s and 70s. When one side did something, the other side said, right, we've got to do something at least to show our population that we're not sleeping.
Yes, and I think that that's a bit of what Putin has been doing today. He is happy to brag and has some bragging rights on this. And I hope that that pushes the United States and our allies and partners in the direction of taking this threat seriously. The National Defense Strategy from 2018 recognizes that we are back in great power competition, that we need to take the threats from Russia and China, hypersonic and otherwise, seriously. Our service chiefs, all of them, have been making suggestions and pushes towards developing more hypersonic technology, as well as ways to respond to them, being more flexible and mobile, and maybe looking at, should we have so many aircraft carriers, or should we have other kind of platforms from which we can launch our missiles.
Professor Melanie Marlowe.